Got some nice puddles there and a little bit of light flooding. But it has rained so little here lately that this will probably be mostly dried up by tomorrow, unless we get a lot more rain. It's been 2 or 3 days since we filmed that storm, and for a lot of people that was like a prayer, a blessing come true. But I was looking at some various outlets, and I didn't realize there were tornadoes hitting down all over the place nearby, not here. So that little 10 or 30 minute storm or whatever that was, it really flooded the area and made these plants happy. Took a lot of trees down, power went out in several, I guess, cities. And a lot of places near me didn't get any rain at all. So it helped here, obviously. And it didn't help anybody some places. And it was a nightmare for other people. Hopefully they got their power back on by now. And then the next day we had a little bit of rain overnight. So this video is probably going to be all over the place. You know, we've been kind of on a roll with bad things, trees dying, grass felling, cuttings not seeming to root or to survive, you know, and with the drought. It's so strange because last year we were talking about a drought, and then in the wintertime we were just constantly bringing plants in and out due to the cold weather. And let's start there. When we ended last season, it looked like those champagne loquats were going to make it. They looked really good. They were putting off not just a little bud growth, they probably put on 5 or 6 inches of growth. And then we started taking them inside because there's another nursery down south that says too cold or too hot, and they just don't do well. So you need to hit it at that certain temperature or a certain time. I don't know how true that is, but we haven't been putting those loquats in like the full sun or anything either. And you'd think at least one of those several champagne loquats, just one of them would have took and stayed, you know, and survived. I put them on that big potted plant, you know, that's like 6 or 7 foot tall or taller. I put them on multiple smaller plants, and I put them on a plant that was in the ground for years. The one in the ground is kind of out in the sunlight, so I kind of chalked that up to maybe sunburn, just dried it, toasted it. And then I took the smaller potted ones in the house during those cold weather snaps, and all of a sudden, you know, a few weeks, month later, they were dead. So they looked like they were successful. And like I said, I'm kind of not basing it on just a plant budding out, because mulberries are known for like budding out and shooting 2 or 3 inches of growth and then still not surviving because they're using their plant energy. These loquats had, you know, at least a significant amount of growth for that 2 months or whatever it was that it had green on it, you know. Here is one, a strawberry loquat that we did a couple months ago or so, and it did take a while. You know, a lot of things, like the persimmons and all, the ones that took showed bud growth pretty fast. This guy here took, you know, probably at least a month, maybe longer, to show growth. This guy, we had multiple grafts, probably up here, right there, and the whole plant died. And we talked about this too, like loquats, when you transplant them, you know, they seem to go from green to dead, roots and all, pretty fast sometimes. So I talked about not wanting to graft something that's only been in a pot for a few weeks or maybe even 2 or 3 months. You know, just my experiences so far say that I need to have either seeding them in a pot and just letting them grow, or picking them, you know, the seedlings that fall on the ground and putting them in a pot and waiting 3 months or something. Maybe most people don't do that, but just my luck whether the roots just being disturbed too much coming out of the ground when we pluck them, or wrong potting mix mixed with our climate and rainfall and humidity and everything. I'm not sure why they don't take, but probably 50 or 60% that we just pluck from the ground and put in a pot don't make it. If your rootstock don't make it, it doesn't matter if your graft is successful up here, you know. That being said, I still seem to have a higher failure rate even when the rootstock survive. So I've only been able to introduce one cultivar that I didn't already have, and that is strawberry. And I've attempted to graft a few others, wolf and stuff, and they didn't take. I may have only did 1 or 2 attempts, and some of them may have been where that case where the rootstock died, but not all cases are like that. So successful. I have a strawberry, a Christmas, I think a Novak, and I do have one, I forgot the label, that I put on my original Shambhala or whatever it's called, which I think is a Novak, or possibly a Novak. Just for the heck of it, I did a terrible graft and it just took. And now I don't know what I put on. Here is another Christmas graft. We did a side graft on this big giant one and did 1 tooth. I probably had 7 or 8 grafts originally when I started putting the champagne on this guy. And this is that tree that I said might be cursed. It just wasn't taking grafts, and then it just took one. And this was months and months ago, I guess, when I planted this guy, or put the scion wood up here, and finally getting some growth. So after so many attempts, I guess I got 4 successful grafts, maybe 1 or 2 that are still scratching green that we haven't confirmed, you know, successful or failures. And I think the person that did the loquat grafts that I was watching is Flying Fox Fruits, and he says it's so easy. Even if you don't line the cambium layers, they'll kind of find a way to match. That was in a video where he was doing mismatched sizes of loquat scion wood to rootstock, and he said, yeah, most likely this will take. But my luck, maybe being South Florida, different climate is different. Maybe we need to do late spring, summer grafts. We'll attempt it a few more times, but I think if I don't have successes this year or next year, I'll probably just get whatever cultivars I think that I really want, whether it's from outside sources that are already grafted or whatever, and just maybe just give up after I have those few select ones that just sound pretty good tasting, different tasting. You know, I think Christmas is one that just fruits at a different time. Novak or Shambhala is another one that, avoids, I guess, those frosts. So I wanted to show you guys that persimmon, that chin-ting or whatever, however it's pronounced. We thought it was a goner. I think one of the last videos I did has some little tiny green buds, and now it started to shoot out all these new limbs, and I went ahead today and trimmed the rootstock buds and stuff. So now it's going to have to survive on its own. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 limbs coming out of that scion wood piece there. So hopefully it's happy. Also trimmed the rootstocks out of these grafted mulberries here, well, like 3 or 4, I guess. So now we have just the scion wood grafted pieces there, and let's hope that they will survive and do well for us. Here's our blackbird, and we have at least 2 grafts that have taken, and look at this got a lot of growth on it, and it seems like it's a very vigorous grower. So this might be trading material or something else. It looks like our Excelsior plum did not take on this cherry plum rootstock, and it looks like the cherry plum rootstock may not make it either. Had 2 grafts there, and I grafted it on one of our larger root suckers as well, and it seems like it failed there too, so no luck. I finally figured out what cultivars I grafted on this Tennessee avocado pawpaw rootstock, and this top one is sunflower, and that side one there, which seems like it made it and then it kind of died, was a pandam So at minimum, somebody might be getting a nice sunflower pawpaw, and its root suckers will be Tennessee avocado, the small little avocado-like fruits that from our oldest tree that actually died this year. These grafts were side grafts, but I just chopped it off, you know, on the rootstock there, so that this scionwood piece at the top would kind of go over it, and I didn't know it was going to stop the growth, but that's okay. We'll just, whoever gets this guy and plants it and has some root suckers later, will have both cultivars anyway. Like our Barbados cherry is finally going into full flower. So this is maybe the second, possibly the third time it's flowered, but it only had a few and it had no fruit on it. So as far as mulberries go, they seem to be the star of the show this year so far. And I don't even know if it was a good idea to do that third order where we had stuff shipped in here, plant material, but I did a fourth order, but from a different source, to get a few cuttings and stuff that isn't available at Fruitwood Nursery, which is where I get a lot of my stuff from. I'll go ahead and say it that it is all mulberries, I think 10 different varieties, and I hear that the lady that sells them usually throws in 1 or 2 extras. Yeah, I don't know if it's a great idea to do late spring, early summer cuttings with, with a drought. There's always a big chance when we have a drought, especially in not a controlled environment where you have 100% control of humidity and rain and, shade and all that. And of course you can put shade cloth and stuff over a plant. You can put it in the, under trees to give it some shade, but it is what it is. I didn't spend a lot of money. I didn't have a big budget, and that's okay, because I needed a little bit of extra money because my riding lawnmower deck broke, and instead of getting the deck replaced, most likely we're going to be looking for a new lawnmower. Lastly, I guess we'll go back to persimmons. So not all of the ones I had in pots from the roots, seedling rootstock that I ordered from Fruitwood Nursery obviously took, but the only 2 that have taken, and there could still be some that come out, there could still be stuff scratching green under the bark out, in the sunlight, planted in the ground. Highly doubtful, but possible. The only 2 that are known that have just had some vigorous growth and stuff and have been successful were the vanilla and the ching ting or whatever. And it seems to me like I probably in the future should do grafts in pots where I can control how much sun or shade they have, because it seems like it's possibly more successful to put them in high shade and to have that control. It's cool to think that you could just, cold stratify some persimmon seeds, American persimmon seeds, plant them in the ground where you want that tree to come out, in 2 years just go graft, and it just be that easy. But maybe it's not. Maybe it isn't, without a lot of work and a lot of luck from Mother Nature. So in the future, that's probably a good idea until I get better at what I do. This is a hobby, but it would be nice to make some money too, getting like a much bigger success rate. But not only that, but to also have many different varieties that you can't just go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or your local nursery to get. And I forgot something else. So I guess persimmons aren't the last topic. So if you've been keeping up with this channel for at least 6-8 months, you know that I got Jaboticabas. I bought a lot of seeds, the red hybrids and the Sabaras, and thinking that I was going to give away a lot of them, but so many of them just aren't doing well. I don't think just keeping in the pots, where they've already had this exposure to the same dirt, same fertilizers, water, rain, everything like that, and some of them did grow pretty good. Other ones are still tiny, so I'm not sure why, but possibly none will be like donated, you know. And part of last season to this season was supposed to be me propagating a bunch of stuff to give back to the garden community here, and it just doesn't look like Jaboticabas will be one of those things. Or maybe if I have 2 or 3 really nice healthy ones, I'll go ahead and just donate one of them or something to the local community. I'm not going to be able to donate 10, 20, 30. Check this out. So this guy here is a red hybrid, and see, it's got dieback and stuff at the top, and it looks very unhealthy. Here's one that may be like 8 or 9 inches tall, but again, it looks really bad. Another one. And another one there. Look at all that dieback from the top. And another one. And that guy might be dead. That guy's dead or dying, it looks like. That guy is like 2 or 3 inches, and it has dieback. Look at this. I mean, there's some there that look a little bit better. This guy looks okay, but not great. There's just so many of them that are just not doing well. It's been an expensive lesson. It was like 70 or 80 bucks for the seeds. You know, what we'll almost assuredly have is stuff like avocados, maybe some of those jackfruits. I don't think I want to protect all the jackfruits this season. It was a nightmare trying to protect everything this last winter. Of course, we might have quite a few white sapotes as well for people that want to attempt to grow them here. Maybe they got a good microclimate and keep them pruned up. And you know, we don't know if you can heavily prune these guys. They're supposed to get some very vigorous tall growth, you know, and that's one of the reasons people graft, is they want to get something that's mature when it's 3 foot tall. Some of our ever-bearing elderberries, look at there, fully ripe. So we got a few of them already potted and probably ready to go to some people, and we need to really do some cuttings, more cuttings on them. And we got rid of all of our 2015 best elderberries, big old bucket full of them, and they're already blooming from what I'm told. So they're probably going to produce some berries this year for people, and we really need to root a lot more of them. So I'm told that Natalie has to go to the bathroom, so we're going to cut this video right here. Take care, guys.